What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Can you see any difference between this pair of goggles and this pair of goggles? Can you tell which one is the Eachine EV300o's or the Skyzone SKY04X? They are extremely similar, if not identical in comparison, but they are a little bit different on the spec sheets, and we're going to talk about this in this review. We're going to test them, field test them, and I'm going to give you my final opinion on both pairs of these goggles. The Eachines are a little bit cheaper if you're looking for that. They have a little different spec. Like I said, a little less field of view on them and resolution in comparison to the SKY04X from Skyzone. So these are the SKY04Xs, looking really, really nice. They both have dual module bays on here, and they have the new installed rapid mix module. So the benefit of buying Skyzones again in this purchase is that you do get a module, a very good module, along with your purchase, and it's even better than rapid fire. So a more updated module, a newer module with diversity on here. You're just gonna have to get yourself some antennas, but it's still gonna be cheaper than buying the Fatshark HD02s, which when you spend $500 on a pair of Fatsharks, you still have to buy a module. So that's gonna put you up into the $600 range with antennas on there. So you can get out the door much cheaper with either pair of these goggles, and since it is late 2020, we're at a much better place for all of the research and development that's gone on this year for both sets of these goggles. They might be working together, or this might be totally Skyzone's work for Eachine. I'm not totally sure, but what I am sure about is that both of these goggles perform great, and they have some great new features on here that I think you guys are going to like for analog coming up in 2021. So let's go ahead, put these on the bench, and let's check them out side by side. I'll do a full review, and we'll do some flight tests with these as well. We'll talk about comfort, specs, ease of use, everything, all in this video. Here we go. Now, before we get started, guys, I think the biggest question on most people's minds is, should you buy digital or should you buy analog goggles? That depends on what you would like to do in the hobby and what your budget is. Now, there's kind of a toss-up here between buying what is considerably the best FPV goggles on the market right now for analog FPV versus buying the $500 DJI digital FPV goggles. So digital FPV is great, and I've explained this before. Flying an analog quad is kind of like looking at old VHS tape versus looking at a 1080p well-adjusted, bright color, saturated image. And that's the biggest difference, you know, VHS versus HD TV. So big difference there when it comes to what both of these style quads look like in their goggles. So around $500, around $500. The Eachine versions are a little cheaper. They are around $450. I believe they're on sale for $439 if you've never ordered something off Banggood, which is kind of cool. You get a little bit of a discount if you're a first-time buyer. I would try to find some coupons on these, but I doubt they're going to be available because they're so new. A lot of times when stuff's really new, sometimes they don't offer a coupon until the first batch has been sold out. But the SKY04X here, they are a little bit better specs. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. The toss-up here is, number one, what is your budget, and do you plan on buying more analog quads? Analog quads are cheaper than the DJI digital FPV quads. The average price of a DJI digital FPV quad right now, bind and fly with the receiver, is around, at the cheapest, $200. I haven't seen them really any cheaper than $200 for the much smaller ones. Now this one is up around $500. This is the iFlight Chimera 7. This is a 7-inch. The smaller 5-inch DJI ones still run around $300. And the 2.5-inch and 3-inch digital FPV quads are still around the $275 price. Now analog quads, they can be much cheaper. You can get a 5-inch for you can get the Tyro kit for around $100. So you can go really, really cheap when you're flying analog. And if you're gonna fly analog quads and you want a bunch of quads, but you want the best goggles, these two are absolutely the ones to get in late 2020. So let's go ahead now and let's take a look at the Skyzone 04Xs close up because a lot of people haven't seen those in a review yet, and we're going to go ahead and take a closer look. Okay guys, let's just go ahead and jump right into this because there is a lot to talk about here, and I just want to give you a few examples of what the menus look like, and I'm not going to bore you with that too very long. But one of the biggest things I want you guys to get out of my review is the comparison of both of these goggles, which one you might want to go for versus the other one. I honestly don't think it matters between the two. I did notice that the Skyzone 04Xs look a little bit better than these. Now, it has to do with the resolution of the image. Both of them have brightness contrast control, so you can also adjust the softness or the graininess of the image that you're seeing. They are different right away than the other lenses that we've seen before on Skyzone goggles. They have this nice fat strap on here, which I love. Feels super comfortable on your head. And this is a pair of older Skyzones, and you can see that both of these now have two different style lenses. These are the ones where you had the insertable diopter option, and the Fatshark HDOs are the same way. These have the new style binocular lens on here, and they don't have that. They're kind of more spherical shaped, but now we also have IPD adjustment and focus adjustment here on the bottom, versus the old ones did not. They only had IPD here, no focus wheel. So I think what they're trying to do here, honestly, is allow someone who uses glasses to be able to get the focus adjustment to whatever their prescription is. I know Bardwell said that he had a prescription that would actually work with these, because he's able to adjust them all the way up to +6, which is the furthest range on any set of FPV goggles out there, which I think is fantastic. And the Eachine EV300os here as well, back here in the red, they also have that same type of adjustment on there, which is crazy. I mean, we're talking about -6 to +6 on the 04X. So that is a huge range for guys that wear glasses. So that's really major news for late 2020 and early 2021. It has, again, an SD card slot on the very bottom right here for you guys. That is similar to the other design that we had previous, and most of you guys that watch my channel, you know that these were my daily drivers forever, the 03Os and the 03S. I carry two pairs with me at all times because sometimes, you know, have an issue, or if I had a pair of goggles go out, I always had a backup. So one of the biggest differences right away is that these are quite a bit heavier than the older ones. This also has the built-in dual module bay support module in there with my Fox Ear antenna. It's the same antennas that I used on this pair, and this has an antenna here and here. So you only have the option for diversity on this one, but it came with a built-in module, which was great. This time around they did not include a camera. It used to have a camera on the front, but most people didn't use that camera for much. It's kind of nice if someone walks up to you, you could press the camera button and be able to see who is standing in front of you if someone came out to talk to you. But most times when you're flying, you're not going to press that camera button anyway, because you're going to need to see where you're flying. Over here on the other side, we have that secondary module bay, which is great. So if you wanted to run two rapid mix modules, you can do that now. So you can have like quadversity going, which is really, really nice. I kind of was upset that they abandoned the Batman logo on there, because that was kind of cool, the little Batman logo. I don't know if copyright runs into an issue there, but they kind of jazzed it up and made it look a little smoother and streamlined here on this one. And the next big thing that they did was they had 3 buttons on top before on each side. We had record mode, search, and up here band and channel. Now I like the band and channel dedicated buttons, and I actually do prefer that, because some of the other reviewers mentioned that the wheel's a little bit finicky to go back and forth. I found myself kind of slipping out of the channel menu back to the bands and accidentally pressing going to the next band, and so I felt like I had better control with a band, and a physical band button and channel button. And there's your head tracking button there as well. And we also have head tracking on this set of goggles as well. So guys who are doing fixed wing,
you still got head tracking on here. So we have USB support as well. That's USB-C on this one. And you can see it also has, it looks like it has some venting here for both of the modules. When they get a little bit hot, they have some nice venting there. And it says that we have SD support now up to 128 gigabyte. Now, on my last pair of Skyzones, I took a 128 out and I recorded with these. And when I got home, I had no video. Even though it showed that it was recording, make sure you, if you get the O3S or the O3Os, make sure you don't record with a 128. You'll come home with nothing. So these are supposed to support up to 128, but I have not tested that yet for you guys. So that's to be determined. But right now, if you want to make sure you get home with video, you want to use a maybe a 16 gigabyte or up to 32, just to be double sure. This is your head tracking out port right there. On this other side, we have AV in and AV out, and we have a headphone jack right here as well, and HDMI in. And it's yet to be determined, but I believe you could use the new SharkBite with these, because just like HDO, we have an HDMI in right there, which is kind of cool. Now over on this side, they changed the power button just a little bit, made it just a little bit nicer for you guys. This is just a sort of a square button there with a piece of plastic, kind of square plastic button, and this one actually lights up with an LED, and it has the power button feature on there, the icon. Now the other thing that I really liked about this set of goggles is the fact that my original ones did fit me quite well, because they came with the extended smaller face plate here, and these just pop on and off like that. And this one has sort of that fake leather on here, and they pop back on. And the same thing for these. They also give you a wider face plate, so if you have a bigger head than Justin Davis, which most of you probably do, you also have a faceplate that will fit and accommodate a wider face, so a much larger face. And these fit nice with no light leaks, which is really cool. You get two types of faceplate in the box as well, and they should come on and off with the Velcro here. The Velcro sticks onto the faceplate. It looks like mine's coming off a little bit, but you can take this on and off. You could wash it. They get pretty nasty. I usually wash them about every 6 months, because I usually use mine every day, which I could probably wash them a little bit more. But you also get the foam style faceplate. But I think these are a little more durable, and they last a little bit longer than the foam does. So you can play around with different types of antennas. I prefer this Foxeer 8 dB Echo antenna. This is called the Echo Patch antenna. I've been using this for well over a year now. You can see it's got some scuffs on it. It's been used quite a bit on most of my videos, and you guys know I don't just fly in the backyard. I go out in the mountains and fly, and these antennas have served me well with even my long range tests. I don't even use a ground station half the time when I'm flying a little bit of long range for you guys and testing that, because this set of antennas, and usually the VTX that I'm using for long range, totally acceptable. And unless I'm flying behind myself most of the time, this is a very good antenna setup. When you're flying behind yourself, it's good to just remember to turn around. That'll help you a lot. When you start seeing your video flicker, that's the time to do that. But also on here we have another jog wheel on the other side, and that's for getting into, I believe the right hand side was for the menus. The left hand side jog wheel was changing the different types of receiving that you're doing, whether it's for racing or you're doing standard RF or whatever. And it's nice to have a little Skyzone04X logo plate right there, which is cool. Lets you know, if you're like me, you're flying multiple different pairs of goggles, that you know which ones you have. These are the O3S right here, and we have no label here. And I took this off because I wanted you guys to see the difference in the quality between these two modules. Now, I think one of the biggest differences between both sets of these goggles, being the O4X goggles and the 300Os, is the receiver that you get along with it. So this is a 5.8 diversity module. Both of these are very similar, but they are different versions. So this is version 1.1 over here, and this is Rapid Mix that comes along with the Eachine version of the goggles, and this is version 1.2 over here on the right hand side that you're looking at, and this is called Steady View. This is different than the Eachine, and that's probably where part of the price difference comes in at. You can definitely see there's a little bit of difference of quality control between both of these. Now this one might have come to me from Eachine as a prototype, so maybe this one got scuffed around a little bit more, but I do notice that the way that stuff is soldered up on the PDB on the Eachine version versus this one, I mean, you can even tell in the video that this one just looks to be a little nicer quality. Eachine's Rapid Mix is doing a very good job, and I think they have similar technologies anyway, because the Steady View receiver, what it does is it takes two signal and combines them into one to make it more stable and clear, and that is nice. But it does, again, it does have the capacity for firmware updates on these. Both these have USB-C ports on this side right here, so firmware updates will be done via this port right here. They also have what looks like a bind button right here on both of these modules, and they do seem to be so close, but if you really look at them close up, there's actually a little more tech packed into this one. There's extra chips on this one, and up in this top right hand corner you can see there's this large white thing right here, and I have no idea what that is, but it actually looks like an external port. So if you had to plug something in to power something else somewhere else, you also have that option on this one. The Skyzone version has that. This Eachine Rapid Mix does not have that port, so that's very interesting. On the back side we have two dial wheels, which is nice, and those are placed right in exactly the same spot on both of these receivers. So they are obviously both done from the same design, but one is just going to give you a little more bells and whistles for future updates, or maybe adding extra options or accessories onto this one, such as powering something else up, which is going to be useful for guys that want to use any type of additional extras with their goggles. And I think that's going to be important to some guys, but then again, some guys might just want to fly the standard one, which is going to be a little bit cheaper. So it depends on you, more options or a little more cost effective. And again, the biggest differences between these two, outside of maybe quality control between both of these possibly being made in different factories, is the resolution. The resolution on the EV300os are 1024 by 768, and the resolution on these is a little bit higher. Also, the field of view on these is 38 degrees. So the resolution on the O4X are the same as the HD02s. So if you already have Fatshark HD02s, these are very similar screens. They are 1280 by 960, but these have a better sort of diagonal field of view. We're looking at 46 degrees on here versus, I believe I said 38 degrees on these. So 38 degrees diagonal field of view on these. And the greatest thing about both pairs of these goggles versus the Fatshark HDOs, in my opinion, if you're still watching this review, this is fantastic information for you, because Skyzone is one of those companies that gets their screens the right distance away from the viewer. So if I bring my fingers in too close, they go out of focus at the edges. The edges have blurs, and that's a problem for your OSD surrounding your FPV view, because if it's too close to your face, your eyes can't adjust right, and you can't bring in the focus enough to make them come into focus, and that's kind of annoying for some guys. And with the Skyzone goggles, I have no issues with that. Everything is in focus, and they're one of those companies that have made their screens not too close up to make the image to appear so big on the screen, which is what everybody wants, but they get it the right distance so everything is in focus according to your adjustments on the bottom here for focus and IPD. That makes a big difference for you guys. I'm also excited that they have such a large focus range. So guys that have glasses now, you probably won't even need to figure out a way to put diopters on these, because -6 to +6 is, again, the biggest focal adjustment range on any set of goggles. So it's suitable for nearsighted people or far-sighted people, and that's fantastic news. And both of the cases and the accessories inside from the Eachine EV300o are very similar. You both will get a cable in here with an XT60 on the end, so just plugs right in the bottom. I kind of wish it was maybe a 90 degree, would be kind of nice, but you could tuck it up in here if you wanted, but this will just come straight down, and then you put, I usually use a 3S3000. I just put this in my pocket, plug it in the XT60 right here, and I'm good to go. And 3000 will last me, you know, a good part of the week. You press and hold on this button right here, and it will power up the goggles. You hear it beep, and your fan should come on. Okay guys, now you see inside the goggles, and the wheel on the right hand side, if you press that one time, it's going to bring up this menu across the top, and it shows you what band you're on. It shows you your battery telemetry for what you have plugged into your goggles, which is kind of cool. If you press it again, it brings you into the channel you're at, so you can switch channels. I can go from channel 7 there, and I'm on Fatshark band F, so I can press again and it'll take me to the band. I press twice, takes me to the band and lets me change bands, go all the way around. Now, the one thing that I was mentioning about this before was that I find this wheel a little bit more awkward than having dedicated buttons, and I really prefer the dedicated buttons, but I think if you buy these goggles, as long as I've been using them, I've been using them for a couple weeks now, and I'm finally starting to get used to this, to pressing twice to get to the band. And it's kind of nice that you have to press again to get to the band so you don't accidentally change the band on purpose, but I find myself sometimes accidentally changing the band anyway. One thing to think about there. You can also set up auto record on the right hand side over here. If you press the right hand button, it will start recording the DVR for you, and if you press again, it will bring it back up, and you can press again and it will stop it. So you can see my signal quality there as well. It looks like 96%. And that's kind of nice that they have that on there. We have RF normal. If you want to change the type of RF that you're receiving to the goggles, you press on the wheel on the left hand side and it'll bring up the modes menu for RF racing. If you're racing, third party RF, AV input, HDMI, playback for your DVR, and return there, and that takes us out. If you long press on the right hand wheel, it'll show you what band and channel you're on. So if you're racing and you're trying to get to a certain frequency, say someone tells you to go to 5860, there you go, that's Fatshark 7. Now if I long press that again, it should go ahead and do a search. Okay, so if you want to get into the menu navigation, you press on the button on the right hand side in front of the jog wheel. Okay, and once we get the settings menu up, we can change things in here like head tracking. We can go in here and change image display, image mode. They have several different modes, which is kind of cool. We can return out of that, but I like to go down and change. A lot of times I feel like the brightness is a little bit too bright on some of these goggles when they come in stock. You can also change the contrast, the saturation, the hue, the sharpness, which is nice as well. If you think it's a little bit too grainy, you can change that and make it softer. I was mentioning that before. But DVR menu as well, you can change up your cyclic record, which I have that to be off. You can turn it to on and it will record over top of your SD card when it does finish, which is a nice option. So you can start over and not lose any video. Auto record I have set to on, which is a super cool feature. If I forget, video length 30 minutes, that's totally fine. Record audio set to on, but I'm going to turn that to off because it'll just be static noise. Format SD card, no. If you want to format your SD card, when you put it in there, select yes, and now return is going to take us back to the main menu. Display, we can change the OSD timeout to 3 seconds. That really doesn't matter. OSD position, transparency, OLED luminance, you can change that as well, which is kind of cool. We can also change the OLED sleep, which it's set to 5 minutes, but I'm going to turn that to off as well. So we're going to change that, and now that's off. You don't want their OLEDs turning off on you while you're flying. And also aspect ratio, some of you guys want to be able to fly in 4:3 or 16:9. You have that option, and there is 16:9. It kind of stretches the image out a little wider if you want to see a little wider. Most people are racing and they're doing 4:3. But if you're doing freestyle, it's kind of nice to do 16:9. But that's totally up to your preference. RSSI display, position, and return. We have system settings as well. Go in here and change your power supply, voltage calibration, RSSI, language, fan speed, which is cool, and it's numeric this time. It's not high-low, so it gives you more control on your fan speed, which is really cool. So if you don't like to hear that, the beep is on. Factory resetting, you don't need to do that unless you have a big problem. DVR, firmware upgrade, not right now. Firmware version is the latest version, version 1. Looks like version 1.10, I believe there. And totally back out.
Now it's time to take a look at the Sky04X full screen. I'll also show you the EV300O's full screen, and then we'll do a split screen with both of them. But right away, the Sky04X seemed to be a little bit brighter and truer to color, a little less saturated than the EV300O's. The EV300O's seem to be a little bit darker in the definition. You can also change some of these settings in the menus, which is nice. If you like them to be more color saturated, you can bump up the saturation or dial it down a little bit if it looks to be too extreme. But again, I think the darks on the EV300O's look a little bit darker on a very similar day of flying with this same quad. This is the Raven that I flew previously on the channel. I did a review on their ESCs as well. You see pretty high color definition there. And on the Sky04X right there, they're just a little less saturated and maybe just a little bit brighter in the stock settings. But in the screen, when you're looking at both of these goggles, the OLED screens, my first impression was that they are much brighter than previous versions of Skyzone and Eachine EV300o goggles. Big difference between those. You have to see them in person really to honestly, truly appreciate how good these new screens are. And up high is where you can see that saturation difference. EV300O's have more saturation in the greens there than the Sky04X. Looks a little more true to color in my opinion, and a little bit brighter. But both are looking really good.
Alright guys, welcome back from the flight test. The real-time flight test went pretty good with both sets of these goggles. I think what it boils down to here is a lot as far as cost per quality of construction. You know, Eachine is a great value, and I'll just leave it at that. I mean, they're not going to be as, the internal parts might not be made as good as what seems to be made at a different factory. It seems that the steady view module is very, very nice as far as the craftsmanship goes. That module is 2 thumbs up. This one came to me a while ago, and it may have a prototype sent to me, so take that with a grain of salt. But you guys know the Eachine reputation out there. It's not the best, but they did perform well, and the screens on these look outstanding. The DVR did really, really well, and the reception back to this diversity module, the rapid mix, is insanely good, better than the rapid fire module, which has been the go-to module for multi-GP racers and freestyle guys around the world for over a year now, with Fatshark HDO2. So now we have something that's new, late in 2020, that is even beating a module that's going to cost you over $100. That's now included with these goggles. So I think that's a really good value for either set of these goggles. I mean, the Eachine EV300O's, they're coming in with the rapid mix receiver ready to go out of the box, with the exception of a battery for $439. I think that's cool. They already have like 38 reviews on the website, 5-star reviews. Everyone is really liking these a lot. So you want to save a little bit of money, go for this one. But if you want, you know, better craftsmanship again, go for the 04X. This receiver module, the steady view, looks great. Both of them are probably going to be updatable, and they now have nothing to hide as far as tech support goes. I think that's awesome too. They have their email right up on the EV300o page. You can email him directly, or you can contact Daniel Skyzone Daniel on Facebook. So look him up, become his friend on Facebook, and ask him any questions you want about the Skyzone goggles, and he will most likely tell you. So a lot of value running here in these as far as analog goggles go, and they're, man, are they putting the final nail in the coffin for Fatshark analog? If analog is going the way of the Buffalo anytime soon, I think that Skyzone is going to be the last man standing here, it looks like, unless the new digital FPV system from Fatshark can save the Fatshark Dominator series. But we'll have to see about that, how that goes. And if you guys decide to go for Bite Shark or Shark Bite or whatever it's called, but so far this year, digital FPV for me has absolutely hands down been this pair of goggles right here. The DJI digital FPV system's blowing them all away. And again, I'm not a fan of that digital static that we get on the screen, that white static on the screen. I like the blurred pixel look better than having the static. It shows up less in the DVR when you're recording videos. So that's kind of cool. I've been dealing with analog DVR for, wow, over a decade now. So this is getting a lot better than it was. So if you're looking for best pair of analog goggles, in my opinion, on the market right now, it's going to be either pair of these. So what it really boils down to at the end of the day, guys, is honestly, if you want to save $50 or not, in my opinion, spend the extra $50 if you're going to go all the bells and whistles and the better craftsmanship. The O4X will beat out the EVOs. And I know you guys are going to ask me that in the comments down below anyway, so hopefully guys that are watching this video that watch to the end, you don't have to ask that question because you already know. And I've tested them both for well over a week now, and I've been flying with these every single day on the channel, so they are awesome, and probably the best thing you can go for out there for analog goggles right now. But these will be some of the best deal out there. So again, I'll put some of the cheaper Skyzones down below, guys. Skyzone is my go-to. It's my go-to on the channel, and I've never ever been ashamed about that on my channel. It's just simple, easy, and reliable. Most of all, reliable. So thanks again for watching my channel, guys. I will always keep the reviews honest as possible for you guys, and hopefully you're flying this week. Let me know what you're flying in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to lately, or what you're up to as far as new videos or anything like that you want to post to share with me down below. And check us out on our Facebook page too, because we have a growing Drone Camps FPV community forum of over 1,000 people now in that. And on my main page we have, wow, like 17,000 on my main page on Facebook. So quite a big community there. So join up with the Facebook group. You guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Hope you enjoyed this one.